Hello, hello, and welcome to Millennial Notebook. My name is Stella,
And my name is Emily.
and here we talk about living life as a millennial in the modern age.
Get comfy, grab your notebook, and let's enjoy the ride together.
Hi, I hope you have been having a good week. How is everyone? How are you, Emily?
I'm having a great time. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
You're doing all right.
I am all right. I'm doing my best. So I am very excited for this episode because last week I spilled my heart all over the keyboard and the microphone.
And it was great. It was thoroughly entertaining. Thank you.
If I have plenty of funny stories for you guys. Like, although not a lot of my relationships have worked out, I have plenty of stories to make up for it. So we should have a story time next time. What do you think of that one?
Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
So we should definitely do that for next time. But I will focus on you for this episode, my dearest, and we will talk about your relationship. So what I find the most interesting about your relationship is that you've been together with your boyfriend for several years now, right? Like, even so, when I first met you, you told me about how you were still in that relationship, and so by the time that we became friends, you were in a long distance relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like what I want to be able to pick your brain at for this one is how the experience of a long distance relationship and how that has affected your relationship, right? And all of the good things and bad things. Like, tell me everything. So before we dive into that, though, can you tell us a little bit more about your relationship situation? Like, where did it begin and how long has it been, etc.?
So my partner, Jonathan, we met in high school, actually. We were high school sweethearts. We met when I was 15. No, I was 16. I was 15. It was my...
And how
it was
old are
year
you
11. I'm 27.
Wow.
So
Wow.
11, it's been 11 and a half
That is
years, pretty much.
insane.
Yeah. So, and we're not married. Definitely not married. But yeah, we met as teenagers. I kind of coaxed him into the relationship by telling him I really liked Final Fantasy. And, yeah, managed to tug at his heartstrings until he noticed me. And, yeah, we just kind of went from there. So we dated in high school for about 3 years. Well, we knew each other for about 3 years and for the rest of high school. In 2013, we both moved to Christchurch for university. He was pretty chill on what to do. He didn't really have too many plans of like what he wanted to study, but he was following what his brother wanted to do, which was engineering. So, and it just happened to be that my dream school was here in Christchurch. So we kind of followed each other to uni. We were in the same dorm. We had rooms right next to each other. So we spent like a whole year sleeping two people in a single bed. Which was I don't recommend it. It's very cozy, but I mean we made it work.
Yeah.
And so and then we flatted together the following year, and then we got our own place in our third year uni. So we were there for about 3 years together, just the two of us in the house, and yeah, things were going pretty well. And then I was pretty keen. He was finishing up his studies, and the plan was that Jonathan was going to go on the JET program, and my kind of only option to get to Japan was to do the working holiday visa. And I'm pretty impulsive, and I get really antsy about stuff, at least when I was younger. And I kind of just did it. I just booked the tickets, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Japan, and I'll see you when you get there."
Did you ask for his opinion on that before you
No, I think he always knew that was my intention, but I never really told him. But the reason that I actually booked the tickets was because he was gonna get there before me. And I was like, hell no, this has been my dream for years. So I booked the tickets and went. But unfortunately, Jonathan didn't get the JET program. So when I was over there, there was no chance of him sort of joining me, and that's ultimately why I kind of came back to New Zealand a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but all for a good reason, which we can sort of go into. But
Right.
yeah, so I guess the big thing for we're still together obviously now, and we've sort of worked through some hardships, health struggles, both physical, mental health struggles, financial struggles. We've both had this is the first time this year that both of us have had full-time jobs. So it's been an up and down sort of time over the last 11 years, but I guess the main thing is kind of like when I was abroad, it's probably the biggest struggle that we've had when I was over in Japan and he was still here in New Zealand, and we were trying to make things work, and I kind of talk about how to maintain and how not to maintain a relationship abroad.
Right. So is
Because
there...
it's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we will be focusing on that because I think would you say that was one of the biggest struggles that your relationship has ever experienced so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. That
long distance.
That almost threw us. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you're would you say that you came out much stronger? I mean, you're still together, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of experiences that I needed for me as a single person as well. Like I learned a lot about myself as an individual, which I wouldn't take that away from anyone.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been in a relationship through some of those really formative years, when you've been a teenager and you've been at uni and you've been together. It's you do miss out on a little bit of development, but at the same time, I don't know if I could have done the time at uni without him.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
sweet.
Like he was kind of my rock through the whole thing, and we kind of grew up together and adulted together,
Right.
which was nice. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we dive in then to that story? So I do know majority of what you went through at that time because I saw you struggle through it actually.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for being there.
Of course, I remember, I mean, I think because there was still a bit of time, right, before you were about to go home. You still had a bit of time on your visa, and with all of the with everything that was happening with your relationship, you really had to make a decision. But okay, we will get to that part of the story. But first, so the struggles, right?
Yeah.
What particular struggles did you experience when you went abroad and then suddenly you are oceans apart and you suddenly had a time zone, right? Was that a 4-hour time
Yeah. So
difference?
it was 3 hours during the summer and 4 hours. No, 4 hours during the summer, 3 hours later in the year. Because of daylight savings, which Japan doesn't have, but New Zealand does. So there was the odd, so 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours ahead. New Zealand was 3 or 4 hours ahead of Japan. So there'd be the odd time where I'd be going to bed at 3 in the morning or something like that, and he was getting up for work at 8. Or, or maybe it was 4, or I don't know, there's the odd really, really late night. Or, I'd go to bed at 10, 11, and maybe he was out having a late Saturday night, and he would call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that, before he went to sleep. So we just met at work. It was pretty good. We could pretty much talk whenever. The time difference wasn't actually too bad, to be fair. It was just sort of those late nights that as soon as it got to 11 o'clock, 8 o'clock Japan time, it was kind of too late to give him a call or anything like that. So there'd be things like that, but the time difference really, I didn't find it too bad. But I mean, it's that physical distance, right? It's the
Right.
not being able to see him, and I didn't see him for 9 months, which is the longest we've ever been apart.
Right.
Prior to that, we'd never spent more than 3. Oh no, hang on. Prior to that was my first trip to Japan, which we'd spent 2 months, 9 weeks apart. So yeah, it was tricky, but I think that was probably one of the easier things because we could just sort of, with technology, you can just pick up the phone and talk. But
Yeah.
it's the physical physical void that you have that's trickier.
For sure. So how would you say that you dealt with that void?
I mean, I was really keen to because I'd never really spent a lot of time on my own, like entirely on my own, and as an individual, I kind of developed a lot more female friendships when I was in Japan.
Aw, and that's one of the reasons why we're super close.
Exactly, yeah, because
Yeah.
I had girlfriends in high school, but we kind of because I had Jonathan, it kind of it didn't ruin those relationships, but I kind of pulled back a lot of those relationships, and like I've still from that I have really good girlfriends, but I've only got a few.
Yeah.
And from uni I only have a few. In fact, I probably only have like two really good girlfriends from that time of my life.
Yeah.
And from Japan I have maybe three or four really good relationships with people. So like I really tried to fill the void with relationships in that regard, and like friendships, um and tried to develop like as a bit of a coping mechanism. You know, just have people to go and have a drink with, or have breakfast with. Pancakes, that was our go-to.
Oh,
Go have some pancakes.
yeah.
Oh, I love those pancakes. Yeah, like you yeah, fill the void, I guess. I did do a lot of eating, unfortunately, and I did a lot of sitting at home doing a lot of nothing
We have
and
all
watching
been
TV.
there. We
But
have been there.
I know it's tough. I had good days and bad days. Some days I was like, yeah, I got this, and some days I was just like, I miss everything. What am I doing here? But
Yeah.
that's just
I
that's the
see.
territory, I guess. Yeah.
So aside from the void, what were the other struggles that you faced? I can imagine I mean, even with friends, right? Like I've never been in a long distance relationship, a romantic one, but I experienced this with my friends, right? Like just communication issues. Would you say that you've had those?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like text messages, or like I would info dump, or I'd be having a bad day, and I mean this is a lot to do with me and not just the general thing, but you know, I'd just have the odd bad day, and I'd really miss him, and it just kind of brought him down quite a bit because I would take all that out on him, and which is something I didn't realize I did until I kind of looked back on it, and I was like, oh yeah, probably shouldn't have done that. But you know, because he for so long was the person that I just talked to about everything. So like, but when you're constantly in a bad place and you're constantly putting that on one person, it really puts a lot of strain on the relationship. So we had a lot of communication issues, and it's hard to avoid that sort of stuff.
For
But
sure.
and obviously you can only talk through a phone or through a video chat, which is better now than it was, I don't know, 20 years ago. But yeah, it just creates some issues. Yeah, like you say, there's only so much you can do through a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What was prior to having to be physically separated for a while, what was your primary way of communicating? Like just hanging out in person?
yeah, I mean we lived together, so we were pretty much together.
Oh, so that's such a
Well,
huge
not-
shift then.
Yeah, and when we'd lived together since the second year of uni, so we'd probably lived together about, well, I mean, if you want to count our first year of uni, we were pretty much living together as well.
Wow.
It had been 6 years or something living together, so and obviously high school as well, which we spent a lot of time together. So we were just, I mean, realistically, we're just best friends. We enjoy each other's company, and I think there's a lot of nonverbal communication that, you know, we are probably we're not like sexual physical, but like, you know, just physical comfort, right, of just
Yeah.
having someone else in the room. We do a lot of you know, he'll watch TV and I'll play games on the
Oh,
Switch,
yeah.
or he'll be playing games and I'll be watching TV on my phone.
That's really
Or
nice,
it's just
isn't it?
like, yeah, or like if we're here in the office, like he'll be playing games and I'll be doing work in here, and it's just nice to be in the same room and have that comfort.
Right.
And I think there was a lot of that was just, it was like a passive form of comfort in physical contact, but I guess when that's stripped away, it's yeah, you miss it a lot. He really struggled in the beginning.
Right.
But I was having a blast, obviously, because I was
You're
in
in the
Japan.
country of your
Um,
dreams.
Exactly. I was filling up my time with meetups and meeting new people and so many new experiences and
And hang out with me.
hanging out with you, obviously. So I tried to fill that gap as much as possible, but there was a point where it got a bit much, I think, and he was getting better at being on his own and I was getting worse at being on my own, which is quite quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Like I think I have a feeling where this is going because I remember your stories. Like, is this related to like? And I hear about this issue all the time, right? Like I have had friends who went through long distance relationships. Like there's always temptation there, right? When when your partner is far away. Like, would you say like what you were touching on a while ago is to some degree related to this?
A little bit. I mean, things were getting better for him because he found some new friends in the place he was living. He had a job, so he had a little bit more income. He was kind of getting used to the single life a little bit and like meeting new people.
Quote unquote single life.
Yeah, not that, maybe more like a bachelor life where it's like he wasn't single, but he had that freedom to kind of like do what he wanted when he wanted, and there was no me holding him back sort of thing. So I think he got a little bit more of a party goer, which made me quite mad because he's really not a party person.
He went to parties? That's so funny. I didn't know that.
I know. He would like go out and like do a lot more drinking and stuff.
I can't imagine that. Like I've seen him, right? Like at least as far as I can see.
He's not a party person.
camera.
So I think that upset me the most because I'm always like, yeah, let's go out, let's go play pool, or let's go clubbing and stuff like that, and he's never really shown an interest in it, but more nowadays, but I mean we do it very infrequently. But
you party?
Oh yeah, I love me some good clubbing. Did you not remember
we went to parties together.
We did
Pre-pandemic. We missed that life.
You're like, what life, what parties?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I guess through that there is a bit of temptation. I just kind of didn't really think of my trip in that regard. Like I didn't look at people in that way because I was just emotionally not available. I've never been emotionally available, except to one other person. So, I will say there was this one guy who was a Mexican dude. Was he Mexican? Yeah, he was Mexican American. He was really nice, and I think he was hitting on me. But before I realized he was hitting on me. And I was kind of flirting with him without realizing I was flirting with him. Ooh. Yeah. And then I realized what was going on and I was like, oh shit. And so we're at this event.
Oh my God.
And I just went, it clicked because I was just like, yeah, this guy's really nice. So we were just having a conversation. It was like the second time we'd meeting up. And then I'm like, I'm just going to go grab another drink. And that is
disappeared.
I just ignored him severely. I just like cut him out of my life.
Oh my God. Okay, so tips on...
No text messages, nothing. I just was like, I'm out of here. I'm sorry.
So if you're curious, by the way, like let me just plug that in. Like if you're curious on how to escape a conversation that you want to escape, we have shared our tips on episode 2, surviving social situations as an introvert. So go listen to that one if you're curious on how Emily smoothly does it as she was able to do in this situation.
Yeah, except I was probably a few drinks in at that point, and I think it was still pretty smooth because I think you tried to text me later on and I'm just like, oh, sorry. Yeah, I just dropped the conversation. I was like, there's no way.
So funny.
But it was this really awkward moment of like, he was giving me the eyes.
The eyes.
I was just like, oh shit, what have I got myself into? Because, I think I am both Jonathan and I are very naturally quite flirtatious, but we don't.
What does that mean? Can you explain that to me?
We're kind of like the people to jab each other,
But how is that flirting?
Like, well, it's kind of like it's both physical and it's sort of like a detrimental thing where you're like, it's I don't want to say it's like flirting with abuse. It's not abuse. It's like sometimes it's like a poke in the arm sort of thing, or it's
teasing.
like a teasing, yeah, or like a jab and the being all like. Oh yeah,
Is that
but
supposed to be flirting?
it is. It's a type of flirting. It's
Really?
a very I think it's a very British way of. It comes from a British.
That's flirting?
Yeah, it's kind of like you just dig at each other and you just like make fun of each other, and that's
What if
so yeah. I just tend to be kind of a bit more of a naturally flirty, funny kind of person.
this is so funny
And I
because
think-
like
Yeah.
because I have friends who are like this, but I don't think they're flirting.
It can come off as flirting. It's a communication thing. Some people get it, some
All
people
right.
don't.
All right.
It's a bit of like a brother sisterly love.
I see. Okay.
type thing. I don't know. It's anyways. It's just yeah.
Linking to
Anyway,
that though,
I
like
think it was it was something along those lines.
Were you tempted though? Like, did you
Oh,
would you
I-
say it was an actual temptation, or did you just catch yourself being naturally flirtatious as you labeled yourself, or were you actually like, oh, I think I was like I'm actually attracted to this guy, but I'm in a relationship and therefore we're in the danger zone? Like, which one is it?
Yeah, I think it was the second one where it was like if I wasn't in a relationship, that could have led to something. If I'd let it, but yeah, I don't know. Like single me is like, I mean, you coulda, but like realistically, it's like I don't think I could even live with myself, you know.
It's just so funny
But-
because like Jonah is such a he's how do you say like he has light hair, and this guy you were talking about that tempted you, the temptress,
He
the
was short. He was
Dark hair,
he
right?
was
Mexican, you
short, dark
said?
hair, and darker skin.
you're so
but,
funny.
He was a guitarist too. He was really into
Ooh.
the guitar. But
Musicians really have that charm, don't they?
yeah, I was pretty lucky that I could easily slip out of that one. So, but yeah, that was yeah. I told Jonathan about it too, and he laughed his head off.
So did he laugh it off at that time when you told him, or was he like
I
upset?
don't know if I don't know when I told him. It didn't really occur to me till like a little bit later
Okay.
that I kind of avoided a situation that could have ended badly.
Oh, so okay, so
Like it wasn't anything bad. It was just a split second
For
of like,
sure,
oh
for
shoot,
sure.
this person thinks of me in a way that I did not intend them to think of me in that way, you know?
Okay, I have a
just
question.
kinda, like slip out.
With these things, do you think it's important to communicate it with your partner that this happened, even though no cheating had happened, right? Like, do you think
yeah.
it's important that, oh, by the way, this kind of flirting thing kind of happened, but I wasn't aware of it? Like, should you be as open as possible, or like
Oh yeah.
as soon?
I mean,
yeah, you,
Jonathan and I
okay.
have always been super open about
Okay.
communication and stuff like
do you think
that.
that
We
that's
always-
helped?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've been pretty honest about the whole situation, and as much as it did cause not that particular situation, but other things did cause a bit of tension. It was it's better it's all out on the table, you know, because you can't move on from it if you're holding secrets back and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I told him in a funny way. Where it was like, oh, so I was at this event and I accidentally led this guy on, and Jonathan laughed.
Yeah, like that's true. That's
Because
true.
he knows I probably didn't mean it.
Yeah, because
and
like
nothing came of it.
I can like I'm trying to imagine, right? Like what if you didn't mention it, and like if it like the ugly thing popped up its ugly head later on in the relationship, like even though it wasn't anything serious or it wasn't anything big, the fact that it wasn't mentioned could make it feel much bigger than it actually is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it could just lead to a shit show later on, you know.
That makes sense. Okay, so Emily recommends like a full disclosure, no matter how small.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it must have been hard for you though. Like, how did you cope with it aside from like? So you mentioned you hung out with new friends, went out
Yeah.
to drink, did a lot of
Yep.
activities. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I tried just not to think about it. I mean, it got really difficult when obviously he wasn't going to be in Japan with me. So it was kind of a point of like, oh, he'll be here in April sort of thing. You know, assuming everything goes right. If it's not April, it'll be August, but that none of that was going to happen. So it was just it kind of got to a point where there was no sure thing that he was going to join me in Japan. So I think that's when things got really tough. It was like, well, obviously I had a goal of getting a freelance job, or a job in Japan, so that I could get the visa, so that I could continue to be there. And if I had a job, obviously Jonathan could join me pretty easily because we'd be financially okay at least. But when those things just sort of unraveled, it was a lot of things on top of a lot of things. It just, just like, you're just kind of like, oh, when's the next time I'm going to see you? Like when, and you just sort of, it makes it really tough. You haven't got something to look forward to. You don't have a date to look forward to. You don't have like a concrete time that you'll see each other again. So I think that's really important to set the time, or set a timeline, or a date or something, or they come over for, I don't know, a 2-week visit or something like that. Like having a date in which you'll see each other again, like a concrete date. Then I think that's really important to have. Because I think without that, you just kind of lose touch with each other. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I do hear about that often, that it's very important to set like it doesn't have to be like the final timeline, right? But like, just for example, set a time of like, okay, we're gonna see each other at the end of this year, and then work toward that. So I see. So the timeline, do you feel like setting that timeline helped with some of the rough patches that you experienced?
I mean, we didn't really have a timeline until I decided that, I'm coming home.
I see.
There was really no set date and when we'd see each other again. So it was just, I think that was something that we should have. So many things go into that, right?
Yeah.
It's just the financials of it and everything. And, just, it wasn't the best planned trip, let's say that.
Then again, you did mention that it was a spontaneous trip, right?
It was.
So...
I kind of just jumped on a plane.
But then it worked out. So tell us about like that whole experience. Like, did you feel like, so despite the struggles that you went through, would you say there were any good things that came out of it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, our relationship's obviously really strong. I mean, there were some rough patches when I came home, trying to sort of piece everything back together, being back in the same, like, place, like, living together again. Like, there was just so many pieces to kind of pick up in a way. But I think in the end, we're, like... Ultimately, I made the decision to come home and to repair our relationship because I felt like that was really important and it was something worth fixing or repairing. So it's had some good effects to our relationship. And like, I think for me, I did a bit of traveling while I was over there, but I have sort of found that if I travel again, I don't want to do it on my own. I really want to share that experience with someone. Like, I don't really want to do any more solo travel. I want to because it's like the thing that sucks the most when I came home was I'd have all these stories from Japan and I'd be like, this one time when I was in Japan, you become that person and no one wants to hear it, so it ends up becoming a lost story or a lost adventure because you can't really talk about it without sounding like, because no one cares. Let's be honest. You go home and everyone's like, oh yeah, well, that's your last 9 months you've been traveling around, but I've been working my 9 to 5 and nothing's really changed. So I think that was the hardest thing. But I mean, there was a lot of benefits. I made obviously really good friends. I met you, obviously. And I had lots of girl time, like I hadn't really had a lot of girl time in my life because I tend to gravitate towards dudes. I have 3 older brothers, so I have more of a tendency in that direction.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I liked our partying. I liked our had a few really good trips with some girlfriends. Just lots of coffee dates. Shopping was always good fun. So yeah, it was just that sort of stuff that was really good. And obviously you're on your own time, so you could kind of, you could do things on your own time and you didn't have to check with anyone, and yeah, it was good. there's some good stuff.
I see.
Yeah.
Like, if you had to do it all over again, would you have still gone through the situation where you were apart, or would you like have structured it in a way where you would have never been apart? If you
I
could
don't
do
know.
a redo.
I think if I were to do it again, I mean, to be fair, there was a pandemic, so I kind of dodged that bullet.
Yeah.
If I were to do it again, I mean, there's two things, right? There's Jonathan not getting the JET program, which he should have, but it was stupid health stuff. I would have pushed harder for him to get something so he could join me, or if he didn't get it, have the funds to be able to go on the working holiday visa and join me. Or I should have just waited till we were both ready to go on the working holiday visa, and I probably could have saved a lot more money. Then we both could have done the working holiday visa, and then we both could have been there at the same time. So I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, if you live in regret, you're not gonna,
That is true.
like, regretting the past is not something I like to do, because the past is the past and it's already happened, and you grow from mistakes, and it's all a big learning curve. So I mean, probably could have done things smarter or different, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and yeah.
Okay,
It's-
so
yeah.
now that you've mentioned that, like, what do you think would have made it a much easier process? Like, what would have been a smarter way or a better way to have made that whole situation better? Now that you've gone through this experience, maybe you can give some advice to people who are going through it to perhaps maybe avoid some of the mistakes, or what you feel like were mistakes that you had when you were going through it.
I think it's really easy to, I think the thing that I made the mistake of is I was kind of beating him up over stuff that's not his fault, you know? Like, things weren't going my way, or things weren't going right in Japan, and it would be a lot of complaining to him, which, when you're already separated and things are already kind of tight, and you know, you're in a bit of thin ice, when your whole conversation is complaining or being upset, or if you rely a lot on the other person for that kind of emotional help, and they're not there to console you, it really will deter, like, it'll ruin the relationship, because you already have such limited chemistry when you're away, that any kind of bad or negative, like, there's nothing wrong with complaining every now and then, but when it was kind of getting to the point where every phone call was a complaint, or every phone call I just wasn't happy, or something wasn't right, and it just really strained the relationship instead of thinking of all the positive things I was going through. And that says a lot about how my mental state was as well. It really was kind of falling to pieces.
Yeah.
This is another story.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, you kind of, it's really hard, I guess, when you relied on that person a lot for to console you in the past, and they can't really do that over the phone anymore.
Yeah.
So but I did have really good friends, and that was really helpful to her, like, sort of talk to them about my struggles. There was a few people that understood, and there's a few people that probably didn't have, like, the same sort of first-hand experiences, but you know, having that group of girlfriends to complain to was also really good, sort of spread the load between all of them.
Right.
But yeah, I just focusing on the positives as well. Like, there's a lot of good things about living abroad, and that alone time. I spent a lot of time walking around, like, the streets of Japan.
Yeah.
Near my neighborhood. There were 2 Starbucks within, like, a 20-minute walk.
Wow.
So I would walk to either which one every now and then. Yeah, which is good fun. So
Yeah. And maybe, like, setting a timeline as well, right? Like you said, you weren't
Yeah,
able to do, and then
yeah, I would have a date in which you go home, or they come to you, or a certain date in which you're going to see each other again, because that gives you something to look forward to, something to plan, something to something to see each other again. And that I mean, once I had that, because I had like a month before I had to come. Yeah, I had a month before my plane ticket. Well, before my plane home.
Yeah.
Once we said it. But that was really good to have, because it's like, oh, I get to see you in a week. I get to see you in 2 weeks, or whatever it was. So, and that made a difference too.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I see. So, tell us about your current situation then. How long has it been since you went through that long distance relationship, and how are you two?
We're good.
Surviving that.
We're actually in a long distance relationship at the moment.
Again. Okay, wait.
Believe it
So
or not.
just for a timeline, how long has it been since you came home from Japan?
So I came home like August, September 2019. Then
Literally a few months before the pandemic. How lucky was that decision?
I know.
That was such a good decision.
I am so lucky. I've had friends that were not so lucky. December we moved into this place together, and we've been here 2 years. That was 2019. So like, yeah, about 2 and a bit years now. And we've been in this place, and it's really, really good. We've kind of been through some different financial situations. I was studying, he was working. I was working, he was studying. And he finally got a proper job. So he was doing like a lot of hospitality stuff before, and once he graduated with his first degree, so with his new study, he's now a qualified teacher. So he got a job about 2 and a bit hours. Actually, it's probably like 2.5 hours out of Christchurch. So he's working down in Temuka in a little country school, and he's there on the weekdays, and then he comes home on the weekends. So it's not ideal. I don't love it. We do really like each other's company, but the thing this time is that we know we're going to see each other in a week or 2 weeks. And then we make the most of it, like, because we have 2 incomes now, we can make the most of it. We go out for date nights. We like make sure we spend the most of our time together, and it makes you really appreciate the company as well. So it's a better long distance relationship. But I mean, any long distance relationship kind of has its downfalls, but we've done it once. This is a much better situation, so
that's good.
I have full faith things will be good this year. And he has a job, so
yay! Having a job during the pandemic is always a good thing. Even if you don't, like, I hope you're all right and surviving this difficult time that we're going through. But yeah, I'm glad to know that he has a job and that you have a job, and you know,
life's good.
Life is good. That's great. Okay, I have a question. So
go for it.
Now that you've been in such a long relationship with him, have you ever like considered, because I have heard, so I just finished a conversation with another friend the other day about how he has had like a very long relationship, and so at some point, like when I think on their 4th year mark, and he hasn't really dated a lot before that, so there was like a kind of what he was wondering, like how he was wondering how life would be if he had dated other people, right? And I think like my sister went through the same thing. I think it's a pretty common experience. Like, how about you? Like, people, especially for people who have been like especially serial monogamists, like there's always this feeling that, well, not always, some people have that feeling where maybe they could meet someone else but they never got to explore it. Do you think you've had that feeling before, or were you sure?
Yeah, I think we've both had that sort of like wonder of like what would like the casual arrangement would be like, you know, with like we've kind of both been in that, like, I wonder what that's like. You know, it comes across your mind a lot, but I think ultimately the thing that we just both really enjoy each other's company. So like we found the other person that really makes us enjoy life
Aw,
and
that's
like
so
enjoy
sweet.
doing stuff together. Like, what would we really give that up for a maybe? You know, would we give that up for a fling,
Right.
fling here and there, or like is that we may never find someone like that again? Would you give all that up
Right.
for a maybe? Like, I think we're both like, I don't want to give that up.
Yeah, that, and I'm glad that both of you
Yeah.
reached that conclusion, right? Before you hit a turn where you could never really go back, right? Because some people, make mistakes and then they can never really get it back, right? So it's great that perhaps both of you reached a similar conclusion and were able to maintain your relationship all throughout those years and even throughout all of that
Yeah.
long distance.
Yeah, I think we're just both happy with each other.
That's
So
great.
I don't really see the point in mixing it up. Don't fix what's not broke, right?
And the curiosity isn't strong enough for it to be something that you
It is, but I mean, we both have gone. We've only ever been with each other. Like, literally, both of us have only ever been with each other. So, for us, we're both curious of like, what's it like with other people? But I think we both are so comfortable with each other that the thought of it makes us really uncomfortable.
really and so,
They're just like, ew, no, I don't like that idea.
that's why you're not open to like an open relationship also, right?
Nah, yeah, I don't know. I think we'd both just find it really weird.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I
So
mean, maybe threesomes one day. Who knows?
okay, tell me all about that next time if you decide to.
Whenever that happens, I'll let you know. But until now, that's
So that
we're not that desperate. Just
But that's great. Like I remember before you decided to go back to New Zealand, you were at a cross point and you were thinking like how much do I want to keep this relationship so much that I'm willing to forego the little time that I have left here in Japan just to be able to salvage it, right? Like I think you had that decision and
yeah,
ultimately like 2 years, has it been 2 years? 3 years later, and maybe that decision was great, right? Like it worked out, like it made your relationship stronger, and now you're even more prepared for this like the work week long distance thing that you're experiencing now.
yeah. No, it's prepared us quite well. I think we've both reconsidered the future a little bit. I'm a little bit less selfish now.
Oh, I wouldn't say you were
So,
selfish.
I don't think I was selfish in deciding to go.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think everyone, regardless of whether or not you're in a relationship, you should always consider yourself first.
For sure.
But I think now I consider things as a team more so because, I mean, this decision for him to take a job out in Temuka, that was like a no-brainer. He had to take it because getting onto the job ladder is so hard when you're a graduate. Like, the first job's so important, but once he's got that first job, he can kind of move back to the city and we can reconvene. But we're just like, we're looking at options. If he wants to stay out there, maybe I can move to Temuka for a bit. Like, we're looking at housing now and we're kind of getting a bit more adultish.
Wow.
You know, we've both been like, what if we just go to Dubai and like, I don't know, do a year of like teaching and make bank, and then that could afford us a house.
That's nice.
I don't know, there's like, we just kind of like think of weird things. We've got really good friends who are thinking of moving to Canada, so we might go to Canada with them.
That's nice.
Always jobs there. I don't know. Just kind of keeping things open.
That's great.
What's next? Who knows?
Yeah.
We might end up in Japan. Hopefully, we're going to be there at the end of this year with at least for a holiday. So
I hope
looking forward
the
to that.
borders open soon. Actually, like
Yeah, our borders are opening June or July. I
Really?
think, officially. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're going through, just to put context and timeline. We're going through our big Omicron phase now. So we're
Now?
I think we've
Wow.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so we're at 2,000 cases a day now,
I'm
which is
so-
the
I'm
most
sorry to hear
cases
that.
was the most cases we've ever had. We just like every day is a new record basically.
Man.
So we're just kind of going. We're all boosted. Most of New Zealand is boosted now.
Great.
Kids have at least had their first shots. We have got a protest in Wellington, but they're all idiots, so it's fine.
Oh, no.
They can all, I don't know. I don't really care much about them, to be fair. And yeah, so fingers crossed. In 6 months' time, we'll kind of be COVID, not COVID free, but living with COVID, and then we can travel and get COVID from somewhere else.
Yeah, Japan is still kind of pretty closed off right now, and so
Yeah,
like I haven't seen
know.
my family in more than 2 years
Yeah.
now because
Yeah.
back home like it's one of the countries that is on the restricted list, so I can't go directly. It's too risky, so I really do hope
Yeah.
things start to open soon so that we can go back. Like traveling is one of my biggest pleasures in life, and now that
I
was taken
know.
away, I'm just like, what do I do with my life now? Kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But yeah, like and so that we can see you and we can take photos and dish out more content where there are two of us.
Oh my god, we could do Japan vlogs.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Hopefully when you come
can
here, I'm still
do-
living here.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better stick around for a little bit. Well, you don't have to, but yeah.
Yeah.
Don't work yourself too hard.
You too, baby girl. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for giving us lovely tips on how to survive a long distance relationship, and perhaps like giving our listeners a perspective of what it could be in the possible struggles that you will maybe have to go through if you're going through a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you made it out stronger. So have
Yeah.
hope, friends. Long distance does
Yes.
not have to spell out the end of a relationship. It could be
No.
a very wonderful way to strengthen your relationship and the love between you two, right?
Exactly. I agree.
Yay.
There's always a way through the end.
Yes. Yay. Thank you so much. And we hope everyone that you enjoyed that episode, and if you enjoyed our relationship talk, let us know in the comments. We would love a review. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating if you love
Ooh,
us.
yes, please.
Yeah, and let us know if you want more relationship talks, because we would be very happy to speak more about our experiences, because Emily and I have very distinct experiences, very polar opposite experiences. So let us know in the comments. We'd be very happy to entertain you some more.
Oh, yes.
All right, thank you so much, and we hope you have a great week ahead. Thank you.
Awesome. See ya.
Bye.